Yes, we've covered most of it, and that's the question now. If I forgot anything to ask or any observations, anything that you wanted to share, for example, anything you've seen in the schools or in the institutions or along the trip, like you had an incident with someone that you never forget.
Well, not necessarily.
You can have time to think. If you don't, then you...
Well, I'm thinking of like cultural things, like the removing your shoes when you come into your home, which we don't do. We bring the dirt in on our feet, and then we have to clean it up. That's a practice that I think is good, but it's not one in my culture, and I doubt that it ever will be. But it's a good practice because we say we believe in cleanliness, and cleanliness is next to godliness, and we believe that, but we don't practice it to the extent that you do in the Islamic religion. The thing of women, I do feel that from what I have seen, that women need to have more freedom in the Islamic world. But then I feel that that in certain areas, not in the group that was like the Taliban, that restricted women so very much over in Afghanistan. But I believe in some areas, the women do have, a lot of freedom. I was impressed by one student that asked when we were at her home. This was a fellow who's had a shirt factory. It was his daughter. I asked her, what she was going to study when she got a little older, and she said she was going to study engineering. Well, I thought, engineering, and the woman's job is in the home and cooking and so forth. How did you come about that? And she says, well, actually, I didn't have any choice. And I said, how's that? She said, well, it was the only thing that was open to me at the time. And she says, but then after I got into it, I really like it. And I'm glad that I made, a decision to pursue engineering, a mechanical engineering at that, which seemed completely opposite, not only to an Islamic woman, but even to an American woman. But I was impressed with that, and with that openness and with that, with her ability to be able to choose, what she would like to do, even though it was not the usual thing, in her culture. For instance, this is the common room. You refer to it as the common room, common area, I believe, and when you come into the common area in an Islamic home, you should be well dressed. You shouldn't come in and expose your body, to in the common area. I think that's a nice, a decent thing too. There's so many things, that have value and decency in your religion and your culture, that they have value in our culture too, but we don't practice them in the same way. There's more discipline, to encourage you to practice it in your religion than there is discipline that encourages us in Christianity to practice it, or in America to practice. Because goodness knows we see so much on our media that is not good for adults, not good for children, but still with the freedom of the press, freedom of speech. You know, people get by with a lot of things that really are not decent and are not are good for us.
Okay, give a message to American people or the whole world. What would that be?
Well, we had a fellow in America that wrote several volumes on Christianity. And he wrote 17 volumes. And he was asked, I think, to summarize it. And but he summarized it in 3 words: love one another. And I think that the whole world, we have to love one another. We have to dialogue with one another. We have to understand one another. We have to accept the differences, you know, as well as the similarities. But we have to accept them peacefully. We have to give people the right to their own thoughts, their own way of life, you know, and we insist on the right to have our way of life, you know. And I think that that loving one another is a message for the world. I think that's the only way we'll ever have peace in the world. So I think we need to get at it, be at it, and soon.
So as a last question, I would like to ask you whether these IID trips, which are meant to be bridging the gaps between the faiths and cooperation, form cooperations, and the first-hand experience about interfaith dialogue, as well as the one-to-one interaction. These are all organized for these all goals. Do you think it's reached the goals?
I think they're very successful. I don't know of a single person who has been on one of these trips who came away with any negative criticism of the trip. It's all very positive. It's all very enlightening, and it's life-changing. And it makes it easier for us to live in peace with each other, for us to understand each other. Having visited and had dialogue with, and lived with briefly, you know. And it's, to me, it's a very worthwhile program, and I certainly hope it can continue. And as I said earlier, I would certainly like to see some of the cartoonists and media people and editorial directors, you know, have that opportunity, because I think it would be good for the world.